Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Clinic Gym Radio. I am your host as always, Dr. Josh Satterlee, and it's my pleasure today to be joined by Joe Cohen. Joe, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Now, Joe is basically, this is like an international call, right? Like you're calling in all the way from Israel, which is pretty crazy that we can even pull this off.
Correct. Yeah, I'm in Tel Aviv. Great city, great weather.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Joe, I want to talk with you today about kind of the power of genetics and what, current technology allows us to even discover about our genetics and what we can do to, we can't change our DNA, but we can certainly train biasing our genetic factors, right? And I'd love to dive into that subject with you.
Yeah, so let's go into what can, you can't change your genetics, but you can change your epigenetics, right? And so that's one misconception that people have is, how can you get benefit from your genetics? And so one way is, your body, your genetics are your blueprint to tell your body how to work in a whole bunch of different ways, and which proteins to produce and in response to what. So you have an input, and then your body responds in a certain way. That's where your genetics come in. Now, you can you could say hack your genetics in a certain way by saying, well, if we know that this input causes this in your genetics, then we could be smarter about the inputs. And then, and whenever when you have different inputs and your genetics is responding in a different way, that response is where epigenetics starts coming in, right?
On the simplest sense, what you're saying is, let's say that you want to train and you need 20 grams of protein at a meal, right? And I say, okay, well, I'm going to get those all through drinking a gallon of milk. And you look at my genetic profile and you go, I think there are better protein choices because, yes, you will get 20 grams of protein, but you're also going to get a ton of inflammation and blah, blah, blah because of your genetic makeup. And you say, hey, switch to something simple. Let's just say you go, hey, switch to beef. It's a little bit more expensive, but it looks like it won't cause as much residual inflammation in you. And the net effect will be that all that protein intake is, in fact, say, building muscle instead of creating this battle zone within your body. I mean, that's the most simple way we can do that. But you could do that through looking at how to what would you call that? Refine that for the training methods you use, or the training times you use, or the what the epigenetics would be the influences that you can kind of perfect to get you the best results the fastest.
Correct. So whenever you see that there's a difference between people in, if there's the same input, but different outputs, different responses, that means that genetics is at play, right? If there's differences among people, it means that genetics is at play. And so that, when it comes to the environment, there's a lot of differences. For example, if within the foods that we eat, some people can have celiacs, right? And really not do well with any gluten. Some people can have sensitivities, not only to gluten, but to any number of foods, and then there's some people who actually don't have any strong sensitivities, and, they don't have any problems, seemingly, right? I mean, maybe I think when people get older, people tend to develop more issues, more sensitivities. But, there is a bell curve in how prone people are to respond to, to grains or beans or whatever it is, right? So,
college age kids on spring break eating hot wings and drinking gallons of beer are not really seeing the full effect of that as much as they would 10 or 15 years later when they're 32-year-old working adults behind a computer, right?
Correct. Part of it is they're just more resilient when they're younger. And part of it, I like you said, if they're exercising a lot, that can help them as well. But so essentially that's kind of the what genetics can do. So there is personalized recommendations that can impact you better based on your genetics. So there's could be prioritized recommendations that are more effective based on your genetics.
Yeah. So I know
yeah.
that there's always a story behind these discoveries, right? People oftentimes figure it out for themselves. As I understand it, I want to go back because I understand you. Let me see how I can phrase this nicely. You didn't get dealt the best genetic makeup. The hand you were dealt you felt like wasn't the best. So you kind of used this on yourself and discovered a lot of this stuff to whatever you want to say, turn yourself into Superman. So can you tell us a little story
Correct.
about how that went?
Yeah, exactly. I think I was kind of living a lifestyle that was very similar to how a lot of people live, but my body was reacting much worse to that kind of lifestyle. And so through a lot of, research and partly through my genetics and looking at my lab tests and other kinds of information, I was able to figure out that, this lifestyle wasn't good for me and what are the best recommendations for me.
And what were some of the things you discovered that were like I mean, there's always refinement, but what were the big kind of bricks or the big links in the chain for you that you had to change?
For me, it was dietary things. I did not do well with like lectins. I had to restrict like grains and beans.
Okay. And once you did that, what changes did you notice?
I noticed very, extreme changes. I was, just way more energy, focus, brain function, mood, everything. I mean, my body didn't react well at all to grains or beans or anything like that. So I was tired all the time. Really, just my whole body was malfunctioning.
And did you notice any physical, like, were you trying to put on muscle? Did you lose some fat? Did you find you could recover faster from workouts or anything?
Yeah, for sure. It was pretty much everything. There was everything experienced a change for the better. I mean, my whole life changed pretty much after that. It's very significant.
Okay. And so kind of set you on this path, huh?
Exactly. So that's what really set me on this path of, looking at precision health, like how is my body built? Because I just realized that, if I just follow the advice of other people, maybe that will work for their genetics or their personalized health, but not for mine. And so I always felt like the secrets were, held within.
And what was the first discovery on kind of figuring out those secrets?
So I think there was a couple of big stages that I went through in life. One was like when I kind of solved, my core health problems with the diet, right? And I think a lot of that had to do with cannabinoid receptors, actually, which I found out through my genes. So cannabinoid receptors makes you more tolerant to things in foods and things like that. And so my cannabinoid receptors were not functioning optimally. And with, if you combine that with a certain kind of lifestyle, certain whatever, it's just I ended up getting a lot of sensitivities to my environment, my foods. So that was the first thing. Once I was able to figure that out, I then had to, there was always new stages of progress that made a big difference. I think mood was another big one. So, if you're talking about entrepreneurship, for example, you really need to function at a very high level in order to be a high functioning tech executive, like a CEO of a
Sure.
complex tech company like SelfDecode. So you really need your mood to be very balanced in order to deal with the stressors. You need You need your health to be in check so that you're not tired. You got the motivation. You got so there's the yeah. I mean, you're sleeping properly because if you're not getting good sleep, it's also a huge problem. And then yes, and I think energy was another significant thing. Is how do you have more energy in the day? That's a significant thing.
So you mentioned discovering your cannabinoid receptors. That's not something normal that people kind of check for. Like that's not a standard test or a standard. Well, hell, it's not a standard response I get on the podcast about what works and what doesn't. What how did you discover that, and how can people look into those things or find these issues about their genetic makeup?
So, yeah, I mean, that's what we do at SelfDecode in order to make the whole process easier, essentially, right? So my company, I didn't really give a background about my company, but my company is SelfDecode, where we do all this analysis for the individual in order to make it a lot easier on the individual to, essentially, like, I mean, there's a huge amount of data that you need to take into account for a lot of different things. And so that's kind of what we're doing is we're doing all that data processing and bioinformatics, and then we're giving it to the consumer or practitioners. We also have a practitioner platform in a way that's much more digestible so that they can find these things. So there's, each recommendation is attached to specific genes or variants that it could help with, and you could read more about those. So that's kind of how an individual would find, like, number one is you would get a predisposition for a certain topic. Then you get a prioritized list of recommendations, and then each recommendation is attached with a genetic factor that makes that recommendation higher up on the priority list. And so you could follow that through and click on the different genes and see which ones are significant for you.
So in the case of somebody listening to this show, I mean, we have a lot of chiropractors, physical therapists, athletic trainers, strength coaches listening. And essentially, we could send our sample to your company. You guys process, you send back a report. And a very simple version of that might be like, hey, this gene is associated with being more sensitive to low vitamin D levels, and it manifests itself oftentimes in joint pain, right? Like that's a possible manifestation. And so if we have somebody keep coming into our office going, man, I'm always sore, I'm always this, we can look at that recommendation and say, okay, here's the recommendation is somehow increase vitamin D level, but you'll go to the next step of saying that's because they had this genetic factor. And that's why it's specific to this person, whereas the next person who comes in your office would be fine with the level of vitamin D intake that person had.
Yeah, so the general flow is as follows. For a practitioner, let's say we have a platform for them so they can upload different clients. They can manage their clients in that platform. And so typically what happens is if a client will either have some kind of thing that they want to improve, right? And we have, a whole bunch of reports, like 100 different reports on different topics that the practitioner could see what, how their genetic predisposition is. So they look at that specific topic, and more importantly than even just their genetic predisposition is they get a prioritized list of recommendations that, our algorithms recommend, and they can then see like what labs are connected also that are out of the optimal range to that topic as well. So they can upload, basically they can either buy a kit if their customer their patient doesn't have an existing file that they have from companies like 23andMe. So we give them the access to buy a kit, then, analyze the results, upload lab tests, upload, information about their client, and then we take that together and we're able to give prioritized recommendations, and then the practitioner can just download them easily and then send them to their client. And so we have plans that are, that are white labeling. That could be a white label download with a practitioner's logo, or it could be SelfDecode logo. And it just makes it, they can download a bunch of reports, send them to their clients and to their, and they could also customize their report as well. So they could say, I want this recommendation, but not this one. I want to show my client this, but not that. Maybe if they have a high genetic risk, they don't want to freak them out. They could take it off. So they can customize the reports within within the platform. And that's kind of like the consumer feels like, the end patient feels like they've gotten a lot of value from that visit, and for the doctor or the practitioner, so they're providing more value, but they're also able to get better recommendations. And we make the process as simple as possible. So it's something that we've gotten very good feedback that practitioners, coaches, or different types of people, really makes their life, like it really helps their practice, track clients, and also improve the care. I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, buddy. Yep. It's my first day doing a podcast, Let's talk a little bit about that white labeling, because I think that's kind of interesting for listeners here. So when you say your logo can be on it, or the SelfDecode logo, are you saying on like the test kit itself, or on a report, or both?
Both.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you're doing it on a test kit, you would need volume, but there is an option for like an unbranded kit that would just not have anyone's brand. You could put your own sticker on it, let's say.
Yeah.
Right. So you can order them to your office. If you have a physical practice, put a sticker on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise otherwise you would need scale to produce like your own brand. We're not going to produce them for 20 people, but yeah, it could be your own brand if you have at least 1,000 kits. If not, it would just be an unbranded kit. Or it could be the SelfDecode kit. These are the different possibilities. And then they get the results. You can give them these customized reports based on what you want. You could give them questionnaires to fill out. You could upload lab tests. It's kind of like a platform for practitioners.
And so, we always want we talk about it a lot on this podcast, but we always want our providers, or the people that we work with, we sell hands-on care and exercise, and there's a million options out there for that. But the listeners of this podcast, one of the things I think we take pride in is being experts, right? We sell expertise, the interpretation of data, the building of the workout, the creation of a treatment plan. That's where it's not just buying a tool at the sporting goods store to massage your muscles and then throwing any sort of workout at it. And so if we want to preserve that expertise, do you also have like training or information so that we know what reports are going out, or how that affects our clients and whatnot?
Yes. So we have a webinar series that, basically trains people how to use precision health in their practice, how to use it in general. And so that's one thing. So we do have a webinar series. It's, we spent a lot of money building it with professionals. So it's something that we can provide. In addition, I think there's, the platform is built in a relatively simple way, and meaning it's a pretty good user experience, and the reports itself are very user friendly. So it could be understood like just by looking at it. And that's why it's, you could also download these reports and just give them to the patients directly as well, and they're going to understand it. And again, you as a coach or a practitioner, are going to want to look at the recommendations and make sure that that's what you want to be giving them, which is why we allow you to customize it. You can take off whatever you want, right? At the end of the day, we're not replacing practitioners. We're just giving them tools to work better, more effectively, and provide more value for their patients.
Awesome. And so the test protocol or test, when a kit comes in, if I want to do it in my office to kind of have a increased patient experience, right? Talk about why we do it, then have them do the test, and then schedule a time for a follow-up. Couple questions. Number one, for those who don't know, what is the test like? Are we saying you need to draw 3 vials of blood? You need to do a biopsy of tissue?
It's a spit kit. It's a spit test.
So it's just simple saliva test.
Correct.
Awesome. And how long from the time if we take that sample, mail it out that day or the next day, how long until we as practitioners have the reports in our platform?
It's about 4 weeks. 4 weeks from when you, up to 6 if there's like a heavy load, but mainly like around 4 weeks.
Okay. And then we would get that information or get a notification that, hey, you got results. And I could call the patient and say, hey, Joe, I know you did our test a month or, a few weeks ago. Why don't you come in and we can discuss the details, right? And then we can assemble those reports and discuss them in person. And I'm guessing there's also the ability to send, a simpler, not as complex of information at the clinician level, right? Send a easier amount of information to the client through your portal as well, if we want them to see the reports as well.
Yeah, you could download any report as a PDF and send them to the client. And when you download it, you can customize what is on that report.
Okay.
So you can go through it with them in person, or you can, you could take notes and put it on the report. You can take off recommendations, take off a section. It's very highly customizable.
Okay. Fantastic. And if we go through the white labeling option, and obviously this is, what month are we in? April of 2022. So prices always change, but what's the cost to the clinician if we're ordering multiple kits versus what are you seeing people sell it for on that white label option?
Right. So we're changing our pricing models. We're in the process of changing them now. So by the time this gets published, it's probably going to be changed already. And so what we're changing it to, what we did was basically charge like a set price a year for a certain number of kits. But we kind of realized that everybody kind of has a different number, a different number of patients, right? And so now we're just going to be charging per patient.
Okay.
And it's going to be around $50 per patient for not with the kits, or with the kits it's going to be a little more. So we might be talking about the kits are going to be, let's say, I think we still have to figure that out, but let's say it's around $80. We're talking about $130 altogether, and then a practitioner could sell it for whatever they want. Since it's white labeled, they could sell it for $250 or $350, whatever it is, right?
And I think that
it could be bundled. Also, it depends on the specific practitioner, but it could be bundled as part of.
I think that's the way to go, because you don't want it to seem like a commodity, right? You don't want anybody going there looking at it and going, well, why get this one? Because, I can find it on 23andMe or blah, blah, blah. For, I got a Groupon special for this. It's like, we're selling expertise. So if you make it part of a larger experience, that's where the money is, right? It's a tool in this larger experience, the interpretation, the follow-ups, all those things. It's like we do a lot of, in my practice, I do a lot of analysis on golf. And so we use a golf simulator to hit, but we're not looking at the same things you're looking at the local Top Golf or, in your range. And we tell them that because we don't want that to drive, well, why go here? I could go somewhere else. Like, nobody has this experience. Nobody has this assessment process. And although parts of it may look similar to other places, it's really the interpretation. And that's where the money is, right? Like that's where patients want to feel
I wouldn't
that
say
confidence.
It is. I would say that the product is quite different than what is out there in many ways, actually. So we're actually giving precision health recommendations, whereas the other companies are not.
Right. The point I'm trying to
That's
make is if it's not set up in a way that there's a expertise around it, it looks like you're pricing kits against other kits, which is not the point, right? A patient could look at it and go,
correct.
oh,
Correct.
and that's not what
Correct.
this is all about. This is about a part of a larger
Correct.
picture.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that, what a practitioner wants to do is, and this is, legit, right? People are going to the practitioner because they trust their opinion, right? Nobody's going to someone if they don't trust what they have to say. So what you're doing is you're looking over the information and choosing what you want to be in there, what you don't want to be in there. And that is extremely valuable to the patient because, we could have 15 recommendations in a report and, the patient, and there could be 10 different reports that interest the patient or whatever. They want to know, what are you suggesting? So you could also build a regimen for them on the platform, add things to their regimen, and then download their regimen as a PDF as well. So you could say, here's your regimen that I looked over. Whereas they're not getting that they'd have to build it themselves, but why are they going to a practitioner to help them, right? So it is, the content is very user-friendly, but people still are always going to be getting confused about what they need to be doing because, and that's where the human help comes in, right? The patient better than we do. You're with them, you're talking to them, you could see what they're like, what kind of, so you could build a regimen for them and then download that PDF. And in that regimen, it's going to show exactly what each recommendation is good for. So we're amplifying what the practitioner is doing, and that's how you want to charge as well, right? So it's like, if a practitioner, you're going to want to bundle it with a visit, and you say, hey, you get a DNA analysis. This is a DNA analysis visit. It's $400, right? And it's just part of the visit, and they're also getting this nice additional value that they wouldn't be getting, right? Hey, I'm also getting a DNA test here. Mute. You're on mute.
The future of what we can do in clinics is incredible. It's expanding in a large way, especially when we don't have to pierce the skin for diagnostic information, Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you said that the kit comes you create a sample, 4 weeks later, we get the report, and then we can go in and say, show this to the client, show that, don't show this, don't show that, and come up with our own report. Are we able to brand the report itself? Can we put our logo and office name and whatnot on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Any other trick features? I mean, when we see new technology about this, a lot of times, we don't know the questions to ask. We don't know what the best methods are. What are you seeing out there? What are people doing that gets you excited as the founder of SelfDecode?
Yeah, I think we're using the most cutting edge techniques on the market. So one thing that, I look at when we're looking at, what's out there and what we're doing, a lot of other companies, I would say the vast majority of them are looking at 83 variants in total for everything that they're doing. And they're assuming they can look at everything in your body with 83 variants. We're looking at 83 million variants when we're, doing the analysis, and you need really a very high skilled team to do that. And it's way, way more expensive. So, I mean, I think that, our mission is really to increase the quality of, is to disrupt modern medicine by empowering individuals to uncover mysteries about their bodies, brains, and DNA. And, so I'm really excited that we're doing that with the most cutting edge tools, and unfortunately, my concern is that there's very few companies are using these cutting edge techniques. And I think that's something you want to look out for. It's like, when you're, let's say, looking at a given report, how many variants was analyzed to come up with this predisposition or whatever, typically you'll see a few variants. In ours, it goes up to 2 million variants for an individual topic. It is more expensive to do it because the talent that you need for that and the compute power goes up a lot. The AI machine learning uses a lot of compute power, but we feel like we're not only like we have three. Not only are we doing the practitioners, we're also one of our business models is also to provide other businesses in the space with the infrastructure to be able to do genomics legitimately, which is a huge problem in the field. So there's quite a lot of problems that we're solving behind the scenes. For example, dealing with the data securely, the DNA kit itself, handling that process, handling the whole bioinformatics pipeline, handling the reporting and the recommendations. These are all very difficult problems that, we have extremely talented team. And so we're solving that not only for us, but for other businesses who want to get into precision health. They have some other kind of app or something else that they want to, incorporate precision health into their platform. So that's kind of what's the most exciting is that we're not only going to be catering to practitioners or end consumers, but we're also going to be powering the genomics for a lot of big organizations. That's
awesome. What an exciting world, man. I mean, the possibilities of this compared to what, we were thinking about 10 years ago is just, it's crazy what we'll be able to discover about people and all those, because I think every practitioner on this call has had those people come in that are the mystery people, right? They're dealing with some autoimmune or they're dealing with some low level thing and nobody can seem to get to the bottom of it. So they live in this constant, maybe it's manifests its way in joint pain. So it's 2 out of 10 joint pain all the time, just can't get rid of it. Or it's, hey, why am I always so tired? My wife needs half as much sleep as I do. Or, I can think of a few golfers. I have some older golfers and they'll complain, hey, I can only golf 3 days a week. I had a great job. I retired. I, have a couple $1 million in the bank and all I want to do is play golf every day and my body just won't hold up to it. And so if you can unlock those secrets for those people, I think that's a huge mission. So I commend you there,
exactly.
Joe. Yeah. So if people want more information, what's the best way to jump on this train?
So they can go to SelfDecode.com. That's where we have the consumer and they can sign up for the practitioner accounts as well. So we have those there. And and they can reach out. I'm on Instagram, I guess, Mr. Biohacker. They could sign up to our email list. They could reach out to support if they have something else that they want to, reach out to us about. Maybe some, they want to, if somebody wants to support use precision health in their business, support at selfdecode.com.
Selfdecode.com. I think that's the easiest place for them to remember. Yeah. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate it, man. I think this is a very exciting aspect of healthcare, especially I think a lot of people listening definitely have more of a performance type facility where they're not worried about the insurance payments. They're not trying to go for just pain. Pain might be a step to get rid of in the path of getting somebody better at their sport or at their whatever they want to do. And I think this fits very nicely with that kind of performance and lifestyle type of practice. So I appreciate the information today, Joe.
All right. My pleasure.
All right. And thanks. On behalf of Joe Cohen, this is Josh Satterlee saying, go out there, maximize your license, and live the life you dream of. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for checking out these videos. I hope they're useful. We'll cover things like rehab, exercise, business model, progressions, layout, everything else that helps you build a clinic. So if you're interested, you can click here, there, here, or anywhere to get more videos just like this. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you soon.